Good afternoon. I'm Doug Calhoun, and this is my beloved Adele, and we're glad to join you on this FaceTime Live, hosted by the Spiritual Rhythms for the Enneagram page. And we, along with our co-authors Scott and Claire Lowridge, welcome you to this discussion and trust that you will benefit from watching this. We are going through the numbers, just doing a brief sort of introduction, and we are in the heart triad, the heart intelligence, the EQ, the 2, 3, and 4. And today we do the final number of that triad, the beloved 4s, those that reflect the wonderful creativity and uniqueness of God. And I am particularly glad to be doing this session because this lady qualifies as a thoroughgoing 4. And so, Adele, how would you say you would most like to be described as a 4?
I would like to be described as somebody who is loving and creative and deep and not superficial. Somebody who can live with the mysteries and the paradoxes and go into the dark and into gray and into margins and be comfortable there, because I know what it's like to be dark and gray and in the margins.
And what makes 4s, let's say, different from any of the other numbers?
Oh, they probably aren't as different as they would like to be. But I don't know. Can you give me a different question? I don't know what makes them so different.
Well, how about I'll take a stab at something.
Okay, you take a stab.
When we're looking at the true virtues of a 4, what strikes me about 4s is they bring this whole creative viewpoint to just about everything they do. They are, as a matter of fact, often artists or creative in some kind of profession or avocation, precisely because they reflect the very creativity of God and the generative work of God's Spirit in us. And so what I notice about 4s is, in terms of how they look at the world, they certainly see what I might see, but then they somehow walk around it and see it from another perspective. So they see many different sides, not like a 9. 9 wants to sort of hold everybody's opinion, but the 4 sees things from a unique angle. And so we have both been preachers, and we alternate back and forth in our last church. And it was always stunning to me. We would be going through the passages sequentially, and I'd think, okay, well, here's how I would talk about that. And Adele would get up, and I'm like, how did you ever think of that? That's amazing. And it's the same passage, but looked at from a very different way. And so I think that's one of the things I particularly admire about 4s, is their ability to see things from other angles and be able to help us appreciate the wonder and the beauty of that perspective.
So that is very true. And you said really good things. And I think part of what makes it so hard for me is it's very hard for me to talk about being a 4. And I think that's true for many 4s, that we live with this sense of having a fatal flaw, that we aren't unique enough to matter to people. And so I find it hard to step up and talk about what it's like to be a 4. I feel more connected often to the what's missing and to longings to be, to have the sense of humor of our co-author Scott, or to be as productive as Claire, or as deep as somebody else,
and brilliant as your husband,
or brilliant as Doug.
Yes. We want to leave that out.
And so I'm looking at what's missing, and I think maybe one of the reasons that I go at things from a different angle is that once I know something, it's not interesting anymore. And so I want it to be uniquely interesting. And so I try to, like a prism, there must be 90 meanings in this thing. If only I could figure out a new one. And so I am attached to seeing things from a different perspective. And that makes me resistant to being much of a conformist.
So we've talked a little bit about the virtues of the four. They see beauty, they create beauty, they bring insight and depth. The other thing I think we could say by way of virtues is they are appreciative of nuances and the gray zone. Black and white actually isn't their turf, and they're not particularly keen about rules and limits. So fours are actually, and Adele would probably say this, if you had something to go wrong in your life, a two would come and give you a hug and a kiss and a casserole. A four would come and sit with you. They may not say a thing, but they know how to be present to you in your suffering and your loss and difficult things. And they don't necessarily try to fix it, but they know how to be there. So those are some of the wonderful things about fours. But you got a sense when Adele was talking just a little bit ago that the other part about fours is they can go to the dark side in a way that isn't quite so healthy. She mentioned that she typically sees what's missing. So even though there's lots of things here that are beautiful, she can say, well, how come we didn't see that? Or I wish I would have had a deeper conversation with somebody, and we had a great night with a whole bunch of our friends. But she'll say, but nobody talked really deeply. And that somehow cancels out all the other good if she's not in her centered place.
It's true. I'm sorry to say it's true. When we moved from Boston to Chicago a number of years ago, I found myself in many situations where it would have served me to be able to do small talk. And I thought, well, if I've lived around the world, I always tried to learn at least some of the culture and some of the language. I'll take a stab at cocktail talk. And it was a really good learning experience for me. And I can now just chit chat with you. We won't have to go deep. So relax.
She's being transformed. She's able to talk at my level, which I'm really glad. Want to just acknowledge, grateful for those of you who've joined. A special shout out to our beloved sisters in the DR or from the DR. I know Lita said, I'm not quite sure where you are, but Ruth, welcome. Buenas tardes. Hope you're doing well. And if you have questions, please feel like you can write them in. One of the other things about fours that I would bring up that gets challenging is by virtue of not really liking the ordinary, they can get two polarities this is when they're unhealthy self, their false self. The one is they can get really melancholy. Everything is awful. Or they'll overplay things and get melodramatic and exaggerate everything so that it sounds like it's wonderful. And so just being...
That's dramatic, not melodramatic.
Okay, I sit corrected. They get dramatic. And so when Adele is speaking, she'll often have big hand motions. I'm up there just doing this, and Adele's got her arms wide out because this is like ordinary. You got to get it out there. So that's another way that they want to be seen. The twos want to be loved. The threes want to be seen as successful and not failures, and so they really care about their image. But the fours want to be noticed as somebody special, somebody that's not like the run-of-the-mill. And so they'll often have, although this isn't true at the moment, they'll often have scarves or extra jewelry or bright colors on to set them apart from the crowd, so you notice them for sure.
And part of that being noticed is that if you are unique enough or special enough, people won't leave you. If you're really funny, and if you're really intelligent, and if you're really productive, and if you're really peaceful, and if you're really beautiful, and then you would be so unique. Why would anybody want to walk away from you? And yet fours have this anxiety, this fatal flaw, that people will walk away from them. And so to sort of to manage my anxiety, I try to do things that make me more unique or just do things that keep me occupied. And so when Doug and I first got married, I didn't know a blooming thing about the Enneagram, but I moved from Boston and he moved from the New York City area, and we went up to rural Maine, and it was like, who am I in rural Maine? I mean, who am I there? So I decided I would learn something new every month, to do something new every month. So I would learn to play the guitar, or to quilt, or to make baskets, or to do needlepoint, or to garden, or to can, and there's something about doing all those things that makes me feel alive and makes me feel like, oh, well, I'm interesting now. Maybe I can cover up that fatal flaw, and maybe you won't abandon me. And of course, people have abandoned me. People have turned me out of their hearts. And it is totally devastating. It's totally devastating when connection breaks. And I feel like, I have felt like my heart breaks in two physically when people walk away. And I think this is the heart triad, that we're all devastated in one way or another when people walk away. And so we do anything we can to restore connection. It is the gift that the heart triad brings, to be able to be people who care about connection. I envy people who can say, I don't give a rip what they think. I would love to be that way, but I do care what you think.
So glad to have you join us, Kat, and we appreciate your question. The question is, how do I ease my melodramatic or melancholic sister out of her states without making it worse, or at least not make it worse for her? That's a very good question. If you ever figure out how to do that, I would
Thank you.
I'll take a stab as somebody who tries to do that occasionally. I think fours, when they're in their unhealthy space, when they're away from their center, they're out on the edge, they do feel, first of all, a lack of connection to something or somebody that's important to them. They are pretty sure that now that they're in this place, nobody will ever love them again, and they're all alone. And so the thing that I feel like helps is trying to be like a four to them. So you don't want to be like a seven and say, oh, you'll be better in no time. That really won't work. You may not want to hug them. They may not want hugging, ironically. But if you sit with them and say, so tell me what's going on. What what's the big pressure here, and allow them to speak about the angst that is burdening their heart. Most likely, you're going to have a clear enough sense of being able to say, "Wow, that does hurt. I'm really sorry about that," and the ability at that point to be able to say, "So how can I help you move forward? Do you just need some more time alone, or would you like me to?" There's no set strategy, but I know that if I can remember we had a time early in our life where I had three options as a husband over one particular issue. Do I, which do I do? And one time I chose the wrong option, and she bolted out of the house, took her coat, and went to a bridge and was thinking about jumping off. Thank God I figured out the next option that got her back to the house. But that's the thing. Forrest could feel overwhelmed with these feelings. So to be able to sit with them and hold them and not discount them out of hand, but also not let their reality define reality. You can help them get back in touch with reality. Hope that helps.
And I think Doug has learned and done a wonderful job, and that I have also learned to let go of some of the drama. We're in the process of moving, and there's just been a lot of things go sideways. And in the past, I would have made all of these things that went sideways disasters, big disasters that deserve to be grieved and deserve
published abroad to the world.
How terrible it's been, that there's never been a move as bad as this move. And I feel like I just don't go there anymore. It's just, I don't deserve a charmed life. I'm not entitled to some perfect move. Moves can be difficult. And so I just keep welcoming what's happening. I say, welcome, Jesus, welcome. Oh, there's bats in another part of our house today. Oh, well, okay. Welcome, Jesus, welcome.
We're welcoming Jesus, not the bats.
Not the bats, not the bats. But we thought we'd gotten rid of them, so here they are again. But I feel like if I can keep myself open, rather than go to the drama and the melodramatic and the everything woe is me place, it is so much better for both of us. And
amen.
And I can't do anything to make these things change. And so to receive them seems like a far better thing than to I would push against them and try to think I somehow could have controlled them, and I can't. So for fours, that ability to let the emotion go and not be their emotion, I guess that's what I want to say. That emotion is like weather, and it comes and it goes. And so 1 minute it's cloudy and rainy and stormy, and by this afternoon I'll have a different emotion, I'll have a different feeling. And so being in the feeling triad, for me, it's like, okay, observe that emotion, notice it. You can see what even caused it, but you're not going to feel this way in another hour if you let it go, if you let the weather go. So that's part of my dealing with my fourness.
And I do think those of us who know and live with fours, helping them with stability is a wonderful gift, because that helps them do what Adele just described. On their own, they may ride this emotional roller coaster the most of any of the heart triad. They can get stuck on that train. And so to be a consistent presence for them, and to not leave them in their highs and lows, but to stay with them, is a wonderful gift of loving these beloved fours. And it gives them the chance to actually offer, as they again, move back from the edge and into the centered spot of their goodness and their belovedness, they will have these amazing insights and depth of passion for things that then move others to engage with them. So their emotion has a really powerful purpose when it's centered in God and in their own, their identity is not about that, but they can bring that great love and care to others in a way. So fours are amazing friends. They stick through thick and thin, and connection really matters to them, and they really want to be your friend in a way that is amazing. So I totally lucked out in getting somebody that stuck through thick and thin and up and down with that kind of real perseverance and affection. So,
well, thank you. But I think you're the one who deserves stars in your crown for living with this.
Well, there is that part too. There's both things. So, well, I think we'll probably stop there. The Scott and Claire team will be on tomorrow night with starting the head triad with the beloved fives, and we'll keep going. 5 on Friday, 6 on Saturday, Sabbath on Sunday, and Monday we'll do the final number 7. And then we'll probably be, we'll let you know what's coming up after that. So hope you'll take a chance to go back and look at the other videos if you haven't already. And if you've got our book and love it, we hope you'll go to Amazon and do a review for us and tell us how much it's meant. We want to continue to get the word out to others, and always glad to have further comments on our webpage about your interactions with the book and how God is using it in your life. So blessings on the rest of your day. Bye for now.